Good morning, my students. Myself, Muhammad Nader. I am in charge of your course Electrical Drives and Control for Automation. Its course code is EE311. According to K2 syllabus, the course is dealing with electrical machines such as DC machines, DC motor and DC generator, synchronous machine, synchronous motor and synchronous generator, induction motor, transformers, some electrical special machines and their control. So first two modules will be dealing with DC machines, in which first module is for DC generator and second is for DC motor. But since DC generator and DC motor are constructionally same and just their working is different, I will be taking both DC motor and DC generator parallelly, and I will be discussing both two topics so we can have a effective comparative study on both these topics. So I prefer comparative study for DC machines. So let us move on to DC machines first. DC machines are of two types, DC generator and DC motor. As you know, in DC generator, we are giving mechanical input and it is converted to electrical energy. And in case of DC motor, electrical energy is converted to mechanical energy. Even if the ceiling fan is a induction motor, what we are doing is by switching on the supply, we are giving electrical energy to my induction motor or in ceiling fan, and the ceiling fan will give back the mechanical energy. That is the case of every motor. And in generator, we know in any type of generator, we are giving mechanical input and it is converted to electrical energy. So DC generator, mechanical energy is converted to electrical energy, and DC motor, electrical energy is converted to mechanical energy. And both this DC generator and DC motor are constructionally same. So first let us have a look on the basic principle of DC generator. DC generator works on the basic principle called Faraday's law of electromagnetic induction. To explain this law, the minimum requirement is we require a conductor and a magnetic field. So according to DC generator, if a conductor is moved in a magnetic field, due to change in flux linking with the conductor, an EMF will be induced in the conductor. Okay, what is flux linkage? When a conductor is placed in a magnetic field, the magnetic field passing through the conductor is called magnetic flux linkage. According to Faraday, if this magnetic flux linkage is changed by any means, then an EMF will be induced in the conductor. In case of DC generator, what we do is, the basic principle is that this conductor is moved in a magnetic field. That magnetic field is constant magnetic field. Then due to change in flux linkage, an EMF will be induced in my conductor. Clear? So let us have a look on the basic principle. Whenever there is a relative motion between a conductor and a magnetic field, due to relative variation between flux and conductor, an EMF will be induced in the conductor. Or simply we can say, in case of a DC generator, when a conductor is moved in a magnetic field, due to change in flux linkage between conductor and magnetic field, an EMF will be induced in the conductor. Is that clear? Either I should move my conductor in the magnetic field, else keep conductor in stationary position and move the magnetic field. Anyway, there should be a relative motion between conductor and magnetic field, so that magnetic field linking with the conductor, that is magnetic flux linkage, should be changed. Then an EMF will be induced in the conductor. That is what Faraday said. But in case of DC generator, the principle behind DC generator is we are not moving magnetic field, we will be moving the conductor. A conductor is moved in a magnetic field so that magnetic flux linking with the conductor is changed and EMF will be induced in the conductor. Clear? But as I said, EMF will be induced in the conductor. What is EMF? It's just voltage. For namesake, let us say it is same as voltage, even if there are some differences. So just for an understanding purpose, let it be voltage. And voltage will be induced in the conductor. So I want to know the direction of induced voltage in the conductor. So I depend on Fleming's right hand rule. What is Fleming's right hand rule said? Actually, it is meant to find the direction of induced EMF. So keep your three fingers mutually perpendicular to each other. Three fingers of right hand. Thumb, forefinger, and middle finger. Both these three fingers are kept mutually perpendicular so that the thumb shows the motion of the conductor and forefinger shows the magnetic field direction, and then the middle finger will give the direction of induced EMF. So let us say the Fleming's right hand rule again. If the thumb shows the direction of motion of the conductor, that is, the conductor is moved in a magnetic field, then we should know the direction of magnetic field. So the forefinger will give you the direction of magnetic field. Then, according to Fleming's right hand rule, the middle finger will give you the direction of induced EMF. Let us combine both Faraday's law of electromagnetic induction with Fleming's right hand rule. Okay. As I said before, when a conductor is moved in a magnetic field is in forefinger direction, then an EMF will be induced in the conductor which is directed towards middle finger. Clear? Okay. Now, what I said before is the DC generator is meant to convert mechanical energy into electrical energy. That is what we are doing here. We are moving conductor. Moving means we are giving mechanical input to the conductor. By moving the conductor in magnetic field, an EMF will be induced in the conductor. What is EMF? Voltage. If the circuit is closed, current will be flowing. Then what energy we are getting? Electrical energy. Clear? We will discuss in detail in further sessions. Okay. In DC generator, as I said before, I need a conductor and I need a magnetic field. Actually, we can't place a single conductor and near to a magnet and saying that I just want a working of DC generator. So instead of conductor, what we do is we will keep winding on a core called armature core. We will have some slots, that means some gaps in the armature core in which we will place windings. That winding is called armature windings. That armature winding means what? That is our conductor. Clear? So what is the next requirement? We want magnetic field. Only then I can move my conductor in magnetic field, right? So in order to produce a magnetic field, we are not depending on permanent magnet. We are depending on electromagnet. What is an electromagnetic means? If a conductor is carrying a current, definitely around the conductor there will be a magnetic field. Clear? Even if I remove the supply, that means I have a conductor. If I give a supply to the conductor, then current will be flowing through the conductor. Wherever the current flow is there, around the conductor there will be magnetic field. Even if I remove the supply, magnetic field will exist for some more time. That is what electromagnet means. So for this DC generator also, we have an electromagnet that is called field winding. We can't take a single piece of magnet and keep there. Actually what we do is we have another core on which we will be winding a DC winding over there, and a DC supply is given to that winding. That winding is called field winding because the intention of that winding is to make magnetic field. So now the magnetic field is ready and conductor is also ready. Conductor means the armature winding. Then what we have to do in DC generator? By using your prime mover, we will rotate the armature. Now what's happening? The armature is rotating in the magnetic field. Then according to Faraday's law, Due to change in flux linkage, an EMF will be induced in the armature winding. And keep in mind, according to Faraday, wherever EMF is induced, that quantity is alternating quantity and it is not DC. The induced EMF will be AC and not DC. Is that clear? Okay. Then this AC value has to be taken out, but the machine's name is DC machine. So we want this AC to be converted to DC, and we have some other equipments also in DC machine which will be discussed later, in which AC will be converted to DC and working will be discussed in detail in the upcoming slides. So as I said before, whenever a current is flowing through a conductor, a magnetic field will be produced around the conductor. So there should be a rule to find the direction of current or magnetic field. So I introduced Maxwell's right hand thumb rule. For generator, what we use to find the direction of induced EMF is Fleming's right hand rule. This is Maxwell's right hand thumb rule, or other name is grip rule. And let us have a look on what this rule says. Consider a conductor carrying current. Catch the conductor in such a way your thumb shows the direction of the current. Then the other curled fingers will give you the direction of magnetic field around the conductor. That means if the current is moving upward direction, the magnetic field produced will be anti-clockwise. Anti-clockwise means this is curved direction. So look from upward, then current is moving upward, then magnetic field is flowing in anti-clockwise direction. Is that clear? Okay. That is what Maxwell's right hand thumb rule or grip rule says, and it is vice versa. That means if I consider a current carrying coil in which current is flowing in anti-clockwise direction, that is other curled fingers is showing the direction of magnetic field, then current direction will be upward. Or if I say if the current flow is in anti-clockwise direction, that is my curl fingers is showing the direction of current flowing in a coil, then the direction of magnetic field will be upward in the direction of thumb. That means Maxwell's right hand thumb rule is applicable for both current and magnetic field. If thumb shows the direction of current, curl finger shows the direction of magnetic field. If the curl finger shows the direction of current, then thumb shows the direction of magnetic field. Clear? So then what is Maxwell's corkscrew rule? The intention of Maxwell's corkscrew rule is also same. It is for finding the direction of magnetic field around the current carrying conductor. What we do is that consider a screw. We are screwing a screw onto a wall. If I move the screw in clockwise direction, what will be the motion of this screw? It will be moving inward to the wall. Clear? Then, according to Maxwell's screw rule, the direction of screw in forward direction shows the direction of current. Then, the clockwise direction of rotation of the screw gives the direction of magnetic field. Again, if I screw the rule towards the wall, if the screw is moving inward and the inward motion shows the current, then the clockwise direction of the screw shows the direction of magnetic field around the conductor. And this rule also applicable in vice versa also. If I say the inward motion of the screw shows the direction of magnetic field, then the clockwise direction of the current, clockwise direction of the screw will give you the direction of current in the coil. Clear? And it is applicable in both direction also. If I remove a screw from a wall, the screw is moving outward, then and the motion of screw is in anti-clockwise direction, then outward motion of screw shows the direction of current and anti-clockwise direction of screw shows the direction of magnetic field. Hope it is clear for you. Now let us move on to DC motor. The basic principle behind DC motor is Lorentz law. As we have discussed in case of DC generator, as we know, mechanical energy was converted to electrical energy. So the basic principle was the conductor is moved in a magnetic field. That means we are applying mechanical energy. Then due to change in flux linkage, EMF is induced in the conductor. That means we are getting electrical energy as output. Similarly, in case of DC motor, should we move the conductor in magnetic field? No, because we don't want to apply mechanical energy. So keep conductor in magnetic field. What type of conductor? Current carrying conductor. Current carrying conductor means we are applying electrical energy to my machine. Then what should happen? Then DC motor should give a mechanical output. That means there should be some motion occur for this conductor. But I'm not moving this conductor initially. I'm just applying electric current to a conductor and keeping that conductor in a magnetic field. According to Lorentz, if a current carrying conductor is placed in a magnetic field, the conductor will experience a force called Lorentz force. And if conductor is in rotary motion, then force is named as torque. Clear? So again, as we know, whenever a current is flowing through a conductor, a magnetic field will be produced around the conductor. So already we have a main magnetic field on which we are keeping my current carrying conductor. Now the current carrying conductor itself has a magnetic field, and that magnetic field will act upon my main magnetic field to produce a force that is experienced by my conductor, and that force is called Lorentz force. It is the basic principle of DC motor and it's called Lorentz law. As we studied in case of DC generator, we used Fleming's right hand rule to find the direction of induced EMF. That means to find the direction of the output, we use Fleming's right hand rule. Similarly, in case of DC motor, what is the output force experienced by the conductor? So we want to find the direction of force experience. So we use Fleming's left hand rule. Then what is Fleming's left hand rule? Similar to Fleming's right hand rule. Keep three fingers, thumb, forefinger and middle finger mutually perpendicular to each other. Then, as we know, State Bank of India, that is SBI. Similarly, I introduce here FBI, where F stands for force, B stands for magnetic flux density, and let it be magnetic field, and I stands for current. Which current? Current flowing through the conductor. Then see FBA, thumb stands for force, and forefinger means in the direction of magnetic field, that is B, and I stands for current, shown by the middle finger. Then let us combine Lorentz law with Fleming's left hand rule. Whenever a current carrying conductor, that is in the direction of middle finger, whenever a current carrying conductor is placed in a magnetic field, that means current direction is along the direction of middle finger and it is placed in a magnetic field which is perpendicular to the current direction, that is forefinger, then the conductor will experience a force which is in the direction of thumb. So these three are mutually perpendicular. Hence we can find the direction of force experienced on the conductor by using Fleming's left hand rule. Force F, magnetic field or magnetic flux density B, and current flowing through the conductor I, FBI. Clear? Then just for a comparative study, you just understand force means what? Motion of the conductor. That is denoted by thumb. In Fleming's right hand rule also, mutually perpendicular three fingers. Thumb shows the direction of motion of conductor and forefinger shows the magnetic field direction. This is what same in case of Fleming's left hand rule. And middle finger shows the direction of induced EMF or induced current. that is middle finger, that is induced, that is very important. But in case of Fleming's left hand rule, what is the middle finger shows? The current direction which is flowing through the conductor. So all these three are similar. Only difference is that Fleming's right hand rule is used to find the direction of induced EMF, that is middle finger, and in case of Fleming's left hand rule, which is used to find the direction of force experienced by the motor, which is given by thumb. Is that clear? Now let us discuss the construction of DC machines. As we know, the DC motor and DC generator are constructionally same. It is applicable for both DC motor and DC generator. So, construction of DC machines. The main parts of DC machines are yoke, field poles, armature core, armature winding, commutator, and brushes. We'll go in details about each parts. Before that, let us have a brief look on the uh, figure showing the construction of DC machine. And the outermost part is called the yoke and is the main protection for the entire machine. And this is the pole core, north pole and south pole, and this part is called this rectangle shaped part is called pole core, in which we will wound the field windings. What was the use of field winding? When we apply DC supply to the field winding, it will produce magnetic field, that is the main magnetic field in which our conductors or armature windings or armature has to rotate. Clear? And it is the pole core in which field windings are wound, and in middle of two poles there is a armature. And see one thing, and it's just an example of two pole machine, north pole, south pole, total of two poles, and number of poles can increase more than two. It can be 4, 6, 8 or anything. And just an example case, don't think that every machine is two pole machine. So this is a north pole and south pole, field windings are there, and in between two poles there is an armature on which we place our armature windings. In armature, which place we are placing armature windings? On armature slots. Clear? Then, and it's connected to prime mover in case of a DC generator. Let us have a short look on how DC generator works with this construction. And there is a pole core in which field winding is placed, and if we apply a DC supply to field windings, and the conductor or armature is here in which armature windings or conductors are placed, and now I connect my armature to a prime mover and I rotate the prime mover so that armature is rotating in the magnetic field. So a EMF will be induced in the armature winding, and which is an AC value. That's a very important point. The induced EMF is always a alternating quantity. So here AC is induced, and but this is a DC machine, and I want a DC output across the output terminals of the machine, output terminals of the armature. I want DC value and not AC value. So I require an equipment which converts AC to DC. So I introduced an equipment called commutator, which will convert this AC into DC, and it is taken out. So commutator is called rectifier. AC to DC means rectifier. Since it is a mechanical element, it is called a mechanical rectifier. Clear? And what is the use of brush? As we know, the armature is rotating in the magnetic field. Whenever we want to give or take current from a rotating element, we require brushes. So current is taken or output from the armature is taken through brushes and commutator. What is the use of brush? It is used to take or give current to a rotating element. Clear? What is the use of commutator? In case of DC generator, the induced EMF in armature winding is AC. In order to convert that AC to DC and take out of the armature, we require a commutator in which it works as a mechanical rectifier. Clear? Now, let us consider a DC motor in which also constructionally same. There is an armature in which armature windings are placed in the armature slots, and there's a pole core in which field windings are placed. A DC supply is given to my field winding, and then, as I know, the basic principle is when a current carrying conductor is placed in a magnetic field, it experiences a force that is called Lorentz force. It is the basic principle of DC motor. So our requirement is the main magnetic field and a current carrying conductor. Where is our conductor placed? In armature. Clear? That armature winding should be supplied by an electric power. So the armature conductor should carry an electric current. That is what we said when a current carrying conductor is placed in a magnetic field. So we should apply a supply to the armature windings. What type of supply? That is very important. This is a DC machine and I am not supposed to give AC supply to this machine. So I will give DC supply to the armature winding. But we know that whenever EMF is induced in the armature, that induced EMF will be a AC value. So the windings are always designed for AC and it is AC winding in case of armature winding. Clear? As I said before, this DC machine can be worked as a DC motor as well as DC generator. A machine working as a DC generator is then transferred to DC motor. I can't remove the armature windings and place another DC winding to my armature. So AC winding is placed in the armature. So how can I give DC supply to this armature in order to make them current carrying conductor? Clear? What to do? I must convert my DC supply to AC and should be given to the armature. Clear? Here there is a device called commutator which acts as inverter DC to AC. That means we are giving DC supply to armature. Before that we are converting this DC to AC with the help of commutator. So in case of DC motor, commutator acts as a mechanical inverter. Clear? Here also brush has the same use. For giving current to armature or giving current to a rotating element or taking current from a rotating element, we require brushes. So in case of DC motor, what we are doing? Are we taking current from armature? No, we are giving current to the armature. So here the brush is used to give current to the armature. What type of current? AC current. That but we are applying DC supply to the armature. So the commutator will convert that DC to AC. I hope it's clear for you. And uh, is prime mover required for DC motor? It's just a generalized figure, but this is applicable only for generator in which we are rotating the armature. But in case of DC motor, what we have to connect here? When a current carrying conductor is placed in a magnetic field, it experiences a force and the armature starts rotating. That means it's a DC motor. If the armature is rotating, is that enough? No, we should connect a mechanical load to the armature. So what should be replacing this prime mover in case of DC motor? A mechanical load. Clear? In case of DC motor, what we are connecting across armature is mechanical load, and in case of DC generator, we apply an electric load across armature so that we can take electric output from the armature. I hope it's clear for you. Then let us have a look on to each and every part. And one more thing, as I said before, this rectangle section is the pole core in which field winding is placed. consider a situation where there is no pole shoe. This curved section, this entire section is called pole shoe. Consider a situation where there is no pole shoe. This is a mechanical equipment. Whenever it is rotating, there will be a mechanical vibration. If there is a vibration, this field winding will always have a tendency to come down and fall to the armature. Then what happens? Then excitation fails. Excitation means the field is excited with the DC machine. Excited means in order to produce magnetic field, if I give DC supply to a winding, that process is called excitation. And as I said before, in DC generator and DC motor, field windings are excited by DC supply or given supply of DC in order to produce magnetic field. But what happens when there is no pole shoe? It comes and fall down to armature. That means I can't give DC supply to field windings because the field windings has already fallen and I can't supply DC to that field winding. That means I can't produce magnetic field for my machine. That is what called excitation failure. I can't supply power to my field winding and I cannot make magnetic field. That is called excitation failure. So if pole shoe was not there, what was the issue? Excitation, chance of an excitation failure. Clear? That is the first point of pole shoe. Then see the shape of this pole shoe. A curved surface which is almost similar to my armature shape. What is the necessity of this? If it was a rectangle shape, the magnetic field reaching the middle of this armature will not be equal to the magnetic field reaching this side because magnetic field has to travel this much distance and here magnetic field should travel only this much distance. So distance traveled by the magnetic field is changed means the magnitude of magnetic field reaching the armature is also changing. That means the effect of magnetic field on the armature will be different if there was no pole shoe. That means what is the use of pole shoe? Uniform distribution of magnetic field. Clear? If it is the shape of pole shoe or if there is a pole shoe, magnetic field will be uniformly distributed. That means conductor placed here and conductor placed here will also experience the same magnetic field. Is that clear? Then what is the use of giving uniform magnetic field? As I said before, whenever there is a change in flux linkage, an EMF is induced in the conductor. Okay. If the magnetic field intensity is very less, what will be the value of induced EMF? It will be very less. Clear? So if all the conductor is experiencing same magnetic field, the induced EMF can be increased. So what is the use of uniform magnetic field? The induced EMF can be increased. Clear? That is the case of generator. And what will be the use in case of DC motor? If the magnetic flux is flowing through each and every conductor is same, then the force experienced by each conductor will be increased. Clear? So in case of DC motor, uniform distribution of magnetic flux will help to increase the produce the torque or torque developed in the motor. Clear? And that is the use of pole shoe. Then let us have a look on each and every part. Yeah, it protects the entire DC machine and it provides mechanical support to the field poles. That means this is the field pole or pole core, which is riveted to the yoke. It is connected to the yoke. So it provides the yoke provides the mechanical support to my pole core also, and it provides a return path for the flow of flux. What is it? From north pole to south pole, the magnetic flux will be moving. That is known to us. But what happens after that? Will that disappear? No. Magnetic flux is always a closed one. That means if a magnetic flux is flowing from north to south, it should reach back to north. That is a must. So what happens? Magnetic flux reaching south will take the path through yoke and will come back to North Pole. That means the path is closed. That means the flux reaching here take this path as the return path to the North Pole. Okay, so what is the use of yoke? It provides a return path for the flow of flux. Okay. It is not required to laminate the stator since the nature of flux in the core is constant and there is no eddy current loss. And this point will be discussed later because you need to know what is eddy current loss and what is the requirement of lamination, and this will be discussed later in the upcoming session. So let it be there itself. So what are the use of yoke has been discussed. And field poles. Simply saying, from the figure, in this figure itself, it's known, it is the shape of pole core in which field windings are wound here, and I am taking a separate figure of the field poles, and this is the pole core, and this is the pole shoe here in which the field winding is placed in the pole core and DC supply is given, and it is the symbol representation. If it is the 3D representation, from this it is clear that winding starts from here and to entire length it is wound and taken back through this and again wound, and in this manner field winding is wound and taken out to negative terminal of the battery, and thus we are giving DC supply to my field winding. And the use of pole core and field winding and pole shoe has been already discussed. Here is the purpose of pole core. It provides the place for field winding. Pole core, what is the use of pole core? That rectangle part. It provides the place for field winding, which is excited from DC voltage in order to produce constant magnetic field. Then what is the purpose of pole shoe? And we have already discussed. Pole shoe distribute the flux uniformly in the air gap. What is air gap? We can't keep my armature close to my pole shoe, or we can't make them touch each other because whenever armature rotates there will be frictional loss. So there will be a small gap between the pole shoe and the armature, and that gap is called the air gap. So that here uniform air gap is made by the pole shoe in order to make magnetic field uniform throughout the conductors. Clear? So what is the next point? It provides mechanical support to the field winding so that there is no failure of excitation. That is, without pole shoe, there is a chance of field windings to fall down due to vibration. Hence, the excitation fails. This point has been already explained by myself. And next point, by uniform distribution of flux, what happens in case of DC motor and what happens in case of DC generator? That's what we are going to say. By uniform distribution of flux, amount of flux linking with the armature windings is more. The amount of flux linking with the armature winding is more if uniform flux distribution is present. That means only if pole shoe is present. Hence, it increases EMF induced in case of generator and torque produced in case of motor. Clear? Next point. Armature core. Whenever we want to wound a winding, we must have a core. Here, field winding is wound on the pole core. Here, armature winding is wound on armature core, and it's not wound on armature core. There are slots in the armature core in which we place the armature winding. Okay, and this is the shape of armature winding. Here is the slots. If I go and look from the front end, front view is just this shape, and actually it has a length of this much, and this entire slot is there. We keep armature winding in this slot, and there is a north pole and south pole. This armature will be rotating in between north and the south pole. Clear? There are slots provided in the armature core in which armature windings are placed. Armature conductors are placed in, and the important point that we have to understand is that These armature windings are not placed randomly. They are placed in parallel path. As we know, each and every winding will have its own resistance and it acts as a resistor. Thing like that. Connect many resistance in series. As you have studied in basic electrical, R1 and R2 are connected in series. That means resistance 1 and resistance 2 are connected in series means what is the effective resistance? R1 plus R2. Similarly, many coils are connected in series and that creates a single parallel path. Clear? This is my one parallel path in which many windings are placed in series. Okay, clear? Many conductors are connected in series. This is one parallel path. And next, we have another parallel path in which other conductors are connected in series. Now we have two parallel paths. Similarly, many parallel paths are there in the armature. That is the way by which we wound the armature winding. So, the armature conductors are placed in parallel paths and it is denoted by A. A denotes number of parallel paths. That is a set of armature conductors in series. As I said before, many armature conductors are connected in series and such a combination is called one parallel path and many such parallel paths will be present in case of an armature. It provides a very low reluctance for this section is over. Now I am discussing about armature. It provides a very low reluctance for the flow of flux. What is reluctance? As we know, the resistance is the property of a material to oppose the flow of current that we know from basics of electrical. Resistance is the property of a material by which an material opposes the flow of current. Similarly, reluctance is the property of a material by which a material opposes the flow of flux. Resistance means opposes the flow of current. Reluctance means opposes the flow of flux. So what should the characteristics of armature? It should not oppose completely the flow of flux. That means it should allow the flow of flux. Then only flux can travel through the armature windings and EMF can be induced in the windings. Clear? So what should be the value of reluctance in case of armature? It should have a very low reluctance so that maximum flux is allowed to flow through the conductor. So armature provides a very low reluctance for the flow of flux. And also it provides mechanical support to the commutator. What was commutator? We have already discussed. The output of the armature in case of DC generator, the output from the armature should be DC, but unfortunately the induced EMF is AC. So we want to convert this AC to DC. That is done by my commutator, which is connected to the end of the armature. So the armature will give a mechanical support to this commutator. Clear? And it is just a basics. If there are total number of conductors is equal to Z, that means there are 100 number of conductors in a machine. The number of conductors per parallel path is equal to Z by A. That means if we have 100 conductors and number of parallel paths in a machine is 4, then what will be the conductor per parallel path? 100 by 4, that's equal to 25. Clear? And parallel path is not constant and it may vary depend on DC windings or armature windings, and that will be discussed in upcoming session. Now let us move on to armature windings. In DC machines, armature windings are of two types: lap winding and wave winding. So let us have a look on different types of winding. First, lap winding. Before that, we must understand what is a coil, what is a winding, what is the difference between a coil and a conductor. And this north pole and this south pole, there are three conductors. The darkened section are three different conductors. Here also in south pole also there are three conductors. And a coil means a two conductors connected together to form one coil. So if I consider this one, this is the beginning end of or starting end of one coil, and which is the finishing end of that coil. Starts from here, and this is the second conductor in that coil, and this end is the finishing end of that coil. According to lap winding, the finishing end of one coil, that means this end, is connected to the beginning end of other coil. Beginning end of other coil means this is the next coil. Beginning end of other coil under the same pole. Under the same pole means this coil actually consists of this much. So this is the next coil. Second conductor and second conductor together constitutes the second coil. So according to lap winding definition, the the finishing end of one coil, that is this point, is connected to the beginning end of other coil under the same pole. That is very, very important. And this is the finishing end of one coil. It is connected to the beginning end of other coil, but that coil is under same pole. Clear? These two conductors together constitute the second coil. That is what lap winding means. It looks like overlapping each other. That's the reason this winding pattern is called lap winding. Clear? And it has two ends taken out as terminals. Across these two A and AA terminals, we will get generated EMF EG in case of generator. Clear? Again, what is a lap winding? By definition, we know that the finishing end of one coil is connected to the beginning end of other coil under the same pole. That is what I said, under the same pole, and it looks like overlapping each other, hence it is called lap winding. One more thing we have to understand is that number of parallel paths in a machine depends on the type of armature winding. So we have two types of windings. One is lap winding and wave winding. In case of lap winding, number of parallel paths is equal to P, lap, P. Thing like that, then you will not forget. Number of parallel paths is equal to number of poles. And in case of wave winding, number of parallel paths is equal to 2, always, irrespective of any condition. Number of parallel paths will be 2 if we wound the armature winding in wave shape. If it is wave winding, then parallel path is equal to 2. Clear? Then how wave winding arrangement comes, let us have a look. The finishing end of one coil is connected to the beginning end of other coil. It looks same as before, right? The finishing end of one coil is connected to the beginning end of other coil. The finishing end of one coil is connected to the beginning end of other coil. Same as lap winding. But what is the difference? In lap winding, the other coil was under the same pole. But in case of wave winding, the beginning end of other coil which is under the adjacent pole, that means the pole which is near to the previous pole, then it looks like a wave winding. Then it looks like a wave, so it is called wave winding. Let's have a look on it. Consider a 4-pole machine, north pole, south pole, north pole, south pole. Consider a coil. The beginning end of this coil is this point, and this coil completes at this conductor. These two conductors together constitutes a coil, and finishing end of this coil is this point. From here it starts and finish at this point. This is the finishing end of this coil. This finishing end of this coil is connected to the beginning end of other coil under the adjacent pole. Clear? This north pole south pole constitutes a pole pair. Then coil under this pole pair, the finishing end of that coil is connected to the beginning end of other coil, that means this point. That coil is in under the adjacent pole, clear, and it looks like a wave, so it is called wave winding, clear. Here two terminals are drawn, but here only one terminal is drawn. It doesn't mean that it has only one terminal. The other terminal will be in the other end. That two together takes a pair of terminals, clear. And in case of wave winding, number of parallel paths is equal to 2. The next part is commutator. As we have already discussed what is commutator and what is its purpose. It will convert the available AC in the armature into DC in case of generator. Hence, it is called mechanical rectifier. We have already discussed that. The EMF induced in the armature in case of a DC generator is an AC value, but what we require is DC. So the output taken from the armature has to be converted to DC, and that work is done by commutator. In such a case, commutator is called mechanical rectifier. AC to DC is done by our commutator. Then, in case of a DC motor, what it is actually doing? In DC motor, the current carrying conductor is placed in the magnetic field. So our conductor should carry a current. That means our armature winding should carry a current. But we can apply only DC current. But the armature windings are designed for AC. So if I apply a DC, before entering into the armature, it should be converted to AC. At that time, DC is converted to AC by our commutator, and in this case, it acts as a mechanical inverter. Clear? All these 2 points have already been discussed. And brushes. Next part is brushes. It is used to transfer current between a stationary element and a rotating element. That's also already discussed. What is the use of brush? It is used to give or take current from a rotating element. In other terms, it is used to transfer current between a stationary element and rotating element. That's the purpose of our brush. And it is used to collect the current from armature in case of generator. As I said before, in generator we are not giving current to the armature, we are drawing. Taking current in electrical term is drawing current from the armature. In that case, brush is used to draw current from the armature. Also, it is used to supply the current into the armature in case of motor. It's also said before that in case of motor, the conductor should be current carrying. So we are applying power or supply to the armature winding. That time, brush is used to transfer the current from stationary element to the rotating element. That is our armature. Clear? Then the material used for the construction of brush is carbon, because as we know, carbon is self lubricant. It has a very high thermal stability since it undergoes frictional losses, and it's always preferred to make with carbon because it has a very good thermal stability, and it is self lubricant, so that frictional losses will be less if we use carbon as the material to make brushes. Then, even though we have already discussed the working of DC generator, it is written separately. Still, we can have a short look on it. The DC supply is given to the field winding in order to produce magnetic field. That process is called excitation. Then, using a prime mover, armature is rotated, in which armature windings are placed in the armature slots, and armature windings can be either lap wound or wave wound. It's also already discussed. In case of DC generator, we know that we want a magnetic field in which we have to move our conductor. That means we have to rotate our armature. So in order to produce a magnetic field, we have a field winding which is excited using a DC supply. Then we produce magnetic field. Then I will rotate my armature with the help of a prime mover, and the armature windings placed in the armature slots also is moving on the magnetic field. Due to relative velocity between armature and magnetic field, there is a change in flux linkage. What is flux linkage? Flux linking with the conductor. Whenever there is a change in flux linkage, according to Faraday, we know that EMF will be induced in the armature winding, which will be an alternating quantity. That is what I have mentioned before. The induced EMF in the armature winding will be an AC value. There comes the use of commutator, by which we convert the AC into DC and taken out. Okay. Then output from the armature is drawn out using a pair of brushes. And actually there will be two brushes. That means a pair of brushes will be there at the output of the armature. Since the induced quantity is alternating, commutator is used to convert AC to DC. Clear? There it acts as a mechanical rectifier. Thus, DC voltage is obtained across the output terminals of the DC generator. And as we said before, Fleming's right hand rule is used to find the direction of induced EMF in the armature winding. When a conductor is moved in a magnetic field, an EMF will be induced in the conductor. Thumb shows the motion of the conductor, forefinger shows the direction of magnetic field, then induced EMF will be in the direction of middle finger, as we have already discussed the same thing. And in case of DC motor, I have purposely left a small topic in the working of DC motor. Anyway, I will say it again. The basic principle was Lorentz law. Whenever current carrying conductor is placed in a magnetic field, the conductor will experience a force called a Lorentz force. If it is in rotary motion, that force is converted to torque. And it's clear how it is working. Whenever there is a current flowing through a conductor, there will be a magnetic field around the conductor. So if I place a current carrying conductor in a magnetic field, there is a main magnetic field, and also the current carrying conductor itself also has a magnetic field. So these two magnetic flux act upon each other to produce a force that will act on the conductor. That is the basic principle. Here what we are doing is DC supply is given to the field winding, that is excitation, in order to produce magnetic field. Then DC supply is also given across the armature through commutator and brushes. Here we want current carrying conductors. That means our armature winding should carry current, but the armature windings are designed for AC, but we are giving DC supply. So the DC supply has to be converted to AC by the commutator. Then it acts as a mechanical inverter, and the supply is given to armature through a pair of brushes, and brushes are used to transfer electric supply to the armature. Now what's happening? Since the current carrying armature winding is placed in the magnetic field, by Lorentz law, a force, hence a torque, is experienced by the armature. Thus the armature starts rotating. Till this much we have already discussed. Also, Fleming's left hand rule is used to find the direction of force experienced by the rotor, or the direction of rotor's rotation. Rotor means armature, in this case armature. To find the direction of rotation of rotor or armature, we use Fleming's left hand rule. What was the rule? Forefinger shows the direction of magnetic field, middle finger shows the direction of current flowing through the conductor, then force experienced by the conductor is shown by our thumb, and it has already explained. You may go through those section also. And there is a small topic called back EMF. What's that? As I said before, a torque is experienced on the armature, and the armature starts rotating. Where is this armature located? Now it is placed in a magnetic field. As I said before, due to action of torque, armature starts rotating. But in armature, there are armature windings, and this, whenever armature is rotating in a magnetic field, then a EMF will be induced in that conductor. That means here armature is rotating, but still there is our main magnetic field. Since the armature is rotating in the main magnetic field, a EMF has to be induced in that armature winding. That is called back EMF, because it is the process that is occurring at the last session of the DC motor. The armature has started rotating. Only if the armature is moved in a magnetic field, an EMF will be induced. Else, whenever there is a motion for the armature which is in the magnetic field, an EMF should be induced in the armature windings. That is what Faraday said. So here also, even if it is a motor, its intention is to give mechanical output. There will be an EMF induced in the conductor or induced in the armature winding due to the rotation of armature in the magnetic field. That EMF is called a back EMF. In DC motor, when armature starts rotating, as explained before, Faraday's law of electromagnetic induction has to be considered. Then an EMF will be induced in the armature winding, which is called the back EMF of the DC motor. And I will just show a basic representation. Never consider it as a final way of representing. It's just a brief idea of representation. That's it. This circuit shows the field winding. RF means resistance of the field winding, and IF is the current flowing through the field winding. VF is the excitation voltage or voltage given to my field winding, and this is DC. Whenever I give a VF voltage across RF or field winding, a current IF will be flowing through the RF. Whenever current is flowing through an coil, magnetic field will be produced around the coil. That is our main magnetic field, and this magnetic field is flowing from this direction. And this is my armature. Armature representation is like this, and these two sections are brushes. Keep in mind, draw armature in a larger way and draw the brushes such as it should have some matching. Don't draw brushes as a big figure and the armature as a small one. So consider their sizes also, and it doesn't mean that you have to take an exact measurement. What I meant is draw a bigger armature and draw small brushes, and this is the basic representation of armature. And armature also has windings. That windings also has a resistance. It is denoted by Ra, and the EMF induced in the generator is Eg, or EMF induced in the armature is Eg. And whenever there is no load connected, if there is no load is connected to my generator, this is open circuit. If there was no load, it would be open circuited. If a circuit is open circuited, then there will not be any current flowing through that circuit. If a current has to be flown through the circuit should be closed. For example, consider a case of a socket. Even if I switch on the socket also, will there be any current flowing outward? No. Only if I connect a load across that socket, then current flows through the load and go back to the circuit, and circuit will be completed. Clear? That is the case of current. If I connect a load here, then current will be flowing, and the voltage across load is taken as V, and it is called terminal voltage. So Eg is produced in a generator. What we know is that generator is producing electrical energy. So mechanical energy is converted to electrical energy. This armature is rotated using a prime mover, which the armature is in magnetic field. So an EMF will be induced in the armature windings. Then if the circuit is closed, it starts flowing current through it. and current through the armature is called armature current, and current flowing to the load is called load current. In this case, the armature current is same as load current. Clear? And is the basic circuit. Always keep in mind the generated voltage will be less greater than the terminal voltage. Why? Because whenever a current is flowing through a resistor, there will be a voltage drop. As you know, V is equal to I into R. Here, IA is the current flowing through the armature, and the armature has a resistance RA. So there will be a voltage drop called IA into RA. So even if EG is produced here, due to the presence of current IA, there will be a drop called IARA drop, that is armature drop. Armature drop means voltage is dropping there. So what will be the terminal voltage V? V will be less than the generated voltage. That's the basics you have to understand from this figure. Then consider a motor in which field winding is there. We are giving a supply voltage of VF, and IF will be flowing through the field winding, and field winding resistance is RF, and I have a armature which is current carrying conductor. That is the case of motor. So here we want the armature winding which is current carrying. So we should give a DC supply to this armature. We never show commutator in the representation. These two are brushes. So actually if we apply DC, here commutator will convert that DC into AC and will be given to the armature winding. Here V is applied voltage. Whenever its voltage is applied across a closed circuit, I will be flowing, that is the input current, and current flowing through the armature is called armature current. See the direction properly. Current is flowing towards the armature. In case of generator, we are drawing current from the armature. In case of motor, we are giving current to the armature. Here we are giving current to the armature. So IA is towards the armature. Here also there will be armature resistance called RA, and I said before, in DC motor there is an EMF called a back EMF, that is EB, is formed in the armature windings. Here we must understand one thing is that V is the applied voltage. Which voltage is formed first? V. Only then EB is formed. So always keep in mind what is generated first or what is made first, that will be higher. In this case, V is higher than EB. So current direction is IA towards the armature. So current is flowing through RA. Then there will be voltage drop called IARA drop. Then V minus IARA minus, here there is a brush drop. After that will be equal to EB, and which will be discussed in detail in after sessions. So one thing you have to understand is that terminal voltage in case of motor will be larger than back EMF. Clear? Now let us have a look on a basic problem based on lap wound machine and wave wound machine. The intention of this problem is to have a comparative study between lap wound machine and wave wound machine. Also, it will give a very strong basics for you. And let us have a look on the question. Consider a 4-pole machine having a total number of conductors of 100. This 9 is page number, so don't be confused with that. Consider a 4-pole machine having a total number of conductors of 100 with EMF per conductor is equal to 10 volt and current rating of conductor is 10 ampere. Then voltage and current ratings of lap and wave connected DC machines are. We have to find the voltage and current rating of my machines if armature is wound in lap winding form, also if it is connected in wave wound form. Clear? So First, let us have a look on lap bound machines. In lap bound machines, we have already studied that number of parallel paths will be equal to lap winding. Number of parallel paths will be equal to P. Lap P. Okay. Number of parallel paths is equal to P. And in this case, P is equal to 4. Clear? And also in question it is given number of conductors is equal to 100. Therefore, total conductors per parallel path will be 100 by 4, that's equal to 25. It is given that we have 100 number of conductors, and if there are 4 parallel paths, we have to equally divide conductors for the 4 different parallel paths. So for each parallel path there will be 25 conductors, and it is given the current rating of a conductor is 10 ampere. Current rating of a conductor is 10 ampere means that conductor can pass only maximum of 10 ampere. Which conductor? Each conductor. If we have 25 conductor per parallel path, each conductor have a capacity to flow only 10 ampere through it. As I said before, in a parallel path, in a single parallel path, if there are 25 conductors, how they are arranged? They are arranged in series. In a series connection, current flowing throughout the connection will be same. In a series connection, throughout current flowing throughout the connection will be same. So if I have 25 conductors in this parallel path, if it is the parallel path, I have drawn a single winding, but actually there will be 25 such coils or 25 such conductors. Okay, and each conductor has a capacity to flow 10 ampere through it. So for the entire branch, for entire parallel path, we have 25 conductors, and each conductor has a capacity of 10 ampere means never ever do 25 into 10, that's equal to 250 ampere. That's wrong, because in a series connection, current at this point is equal to current at this point is equal to current at this point. So current flowing through each conductor in this parallel path is same, since they are connected in series. Clear? So current flowing through this parallel path is 10 ampere. This parallel path will be also then 10 ampere. This parallel path is also 10 ampere, and this parallel path will be also 10 ampere. So 10 ampere means, and it is mentioned EMF per conductor. That means what type of machine it is? It is DC generator. Let it be consider it as a DC generator. Okay. Then according to DC generator, armature is giving current outside to the armature. That means we are drawing current from the armature. Then current should flow outward from the armature. That is IL to the electrical load. Clear? So what will be the value of this IL? From each branch it is 10 ampere by KCL, Kirchhoff's current law. What's happening here? Current at a junction is 0, or current entering the junction is positive, and it will be equal to the current leaving the junction. According to that law, if I apply here, current entering the junction is positive and current leaving the junction is negative. So plus 10 plus 10 plus 10 plus 10 minus IL equal to 0. That is what KCL says, Kirchhoff's current law. Current, algebraic current at a junction is 0, where current leaving is taken as negative and current entering a junction is taken as positive. So here IL will be equal to what? 10 plus 10 plus 10 plus 10. IL will be equal to 40 ampere. Clear? Then what about EMF per conductor? It is mentioned each conductor will have a capacity to generate 10 voltage of EMF. Here we know that there will be one conductor in series with the next conductor. Thus 25 conductors are present in a parallel path, and each conductor produces 25 volt. As we know, current through the series circuit is same, whereas in parallel circuits it divides. There is an example here, as we said before, 10 ampere is here, 10 ampere is here, 10 ampere is here, 10 ampere is here, and it is reaching here as 40 ampere. So here current is divided, and here it came together to form 40 ampere. So in parallel path, currents are not equal and gets added up. Similarly, in case of voltage, voltage across a parallel path is same throughout. Here, voltage across this parallel path will be equal to this parallel path, and that will be equal to this parallel path, and that will be equal to this parallel path. Since there is no resistor here, if there is a resistor here, when current is flowing through that resistor, there will be a voltage drop, and voltage from here will be lesser here. And again, if there is a resistor here, when current flows through it, there will be a voltage drop, and we will get a lesser voltage at this point. But here there is no resistor in between branches, so voltage across each parallel path will be same. And what is in case of series connection? Voltage will be divided. So if one conductor is having 10 volt capacity, such two conductors are placed in series, total voltage rating will be what? 10 plus 10, 20. Clear? If you have any doubts in this session, please ask me. I will give you another lecture video of about KCL, KVL, Kirchhoff's current law and Kirchhoff's voltage law. Since it is not under your syllabus, I am not going deep into that. If you require, I am ready to give another lecture video in which basics, that is series resistance circuits, parallel resistance circuit, series voltage or parallel voltage, series current and parallel current. Such basics can be explained later. If you require, you may please consult me. And in this case, what will happen? Each conductor, if I connect two conductors in series, and one conductor has a capacity of 10 volt and other conductor has a capacity of 10 volt, if I connect it together, we will get a total capacity of 20 volt. If you have any doubt, consider two batteries, 10 volt battery and another 20 volt battery. If they are connected in series with proper connection, what will be the total voltage across that battery? 10 plus 20, 30. That is the same case here. If I connect a resistor and when a current is flowing through that resistor, there will be a voltage drop called 10 volt, and another resistor, a current is flowing through it and it has a voltage drop of 10 volt. And if I connect both these resistance together, the total voltage drop will be 10 plus 10, 20. Similarly, here there is a coil, voltage induced in one coil is 10 volt. Similarly, another coil is there, the voltage induced in that coil is 10 volt. Together it constitutes 20 volt. Here there are 25 conductors per parallel path, and each conductor will induce 10 voltage, then total voltage will be 250 volt, and this 250 volt will be available for every branches. It doesn't mean that you need to calculate total voltage by 250 into 4, that is 1000, that is wrong, because voltage across every parallel path is same, and that is 250 volt. Clear? Then this 250 volt is obtained across the load also, since we are neglecting all other voltage drops. Here 250 voltage is the rated voltage, and the rated current is IL is equal to 40 ampere. And let us have a look on the calculation. Current through each parallel path is 10. Then load current will be 10 into 4, 40 ampere according to KCL. Then given voltage across each conductor is 10 volt, and total voltage across a parallel path is equal to 10 into 25, that's equal to 250 volt. And total power rating of the machine will be what? We know this is DC machine. For DC, power calculation means power is equal to voltage into current. So power drawn by this load, power drawn means power taken by this load will be voltage into current, that is 250 volt into IL. IL is 40, then that will be 10,000 watt, that is 10 kilowatt. Watt is the unit of power. Okay, then Here voltage rating is obtained as 250 volt and current rating is obtained as 40 ampere. This is what we have to find for lab bound machine. One part of the question is over. Okay. Voltage and current ratings of lab bound machine has been calculated. Now, what is wave bound machines? Number of parallel paths will be always 2 for wave wound machines. So A is equal to 2. Then conductor per parallel path will be Z by A, that's equal to 100 by 2 equals 50 conductors per parallel path. Clear? So we will have both two parallel paths inside the armature. In one parallel path there will be a 10 ampere current, because I have already said even if 50 conductors are there in one parallel path, all are connected in series. A single conductor has a capacity to flow a 10 ampere current through it. Then 50 conductors are in series, so only 10 ampere will be flowing through this branch, and similarly in this branch or this parallel path also 10 ampere. Total of 20 ampere will be flowing to the load, that is IL will be 20 ampere by KCL. You no need to go for KCL, it's very simple. From the figure itself it is clear that 10 ampere is from here, 10 ampere is coming from here. At this junction they are combining together and going to the load, then that will be 10 plus 10 is equal to 20. IL is clear. Then what about voltage rating? There are 50 conductors per parallel path and each conductor has the voltage rating of 10 volt. 50 conductors means 50 into 10, that's equal to 500 voltage is coming across this parallel path. Then what is the voltage rating of the machine? 500 volt. What is the current rating of this machine? 20 ampere. Clear? Then what is the power drawn by the load? Power drawn means voltage across that load into current drawn by the load, that is 500 into 20 ampere, that is also same power 10,000 watts, that's equal to 10 kilowatt. We have many things to conclude from this question. What all those things? Both these machines are of same power rating. Then we have the freedom to compare these two machines. Okay. See the current flowing through the load. Current rating of the machine is large for lap wound machine, that is 40 ampere. For same power rating, load current or current rating of the machine is larger than wave wound machine. Okay, if same power is there, current is large means their voltage should be less, then only we can take 40 into 250 volt is 10,000 watt. So whenever current is increasing, voltage should reduce, so that the power rating remains the same. So in this case, power is 10 kilowatt. If current is 40 ampere and here current is 20 ampere. So that 40 ampere means your voltage rating will be lesser compared to wave wound machine. So application of lap wound machine and wave wound machine is understood here. Lap wound machine is used for high current, low voltage applications. Is that clear? How can you remember that point? Large current or high current rating. Whenever there is more number of parallel paths, more number of currents are joining to form the load current, then higher current will be present for that circuit. Keep that in mind and understand one thing. Lap wound machine is used for high current rating applications. Clear? Then high current rating means low voltage application. What is the case of wave wound machine? It is used for low current, high voltage applications. We have concluded two main points about lap and wave wound machines. Okay. Then we must understand one thing. When two resistors R1 and R2 are connected in series, what will be the effective resistance? R1 plus R2. If these two resistance value are same, R is connected in series with R, then what will be the effective resistance? 2R. That means in series connection resistance increases. But what about parallel connection? We have studied in plus one plus two also. If two resistors are connected in parallel, then effective resistance 1 by R effective is equal to 1 by R1 plus 1 by R2. In other words, R effective is equal to R1 R2 divided by R1 plus R2. The main sense is that when resistance are connected in parallel, effective resistance will be reduced. Clear? And it will be less than the lesser value resistance. If I connect 10 ohm resistor and 5 ohm resistor in parallel to each other, effective resistance will be 10 into 5 divided by 10 plus 5, and it will be lesser than the smallest value resistance, that is 5 ohm resistor. Clear? So R effective will be lesser than 5 ohm. It shows that whenever resistance are connected in parallel, the effective resistance reduces. Similarly, each winding has its own resistance, and here when we consider lap wound machine, number of parallel paths are more. That means effective resistance is very less for lap wound machine. Wherever resistance is less means what is higher? Current is higher. That is the reason it is high current machine, whereas resistance, effective resistance is low. Similarly, in wave wound machine, number of parallel paths is less compared to lap wound machine. So effective resistance will be more compared to lap wound machine. So current will be lesser compared to lap wound machine. So we have concluded next point also. Effective resistance will be lesser for lap wound and higher for wave wound machines. Clear? And one more point is okay. Comparison between lap wound machine and wave wound machines. As I said before, for same power rating, lap wound machine is suitable for low voltage, high current applications, whereas wave wound machine is used for high voltage, low current applications. Next point, the effective armature resistance is less for lap wound machine due to more number of parallel paths. But in case of wave wound machine, effective armature resistance is more compared to lap wound machines. Clear? Then consider the fourth point. Then we'll come back to third point. For understanding fourth point, let us have a look on this figure. As I said before, theoretically, voltage across a parallel path will be same throughout if there is no component in between these 2 points. That means voltage at this point will be same as voltage at this point. If there is any component, when current flowing through that resistance or component, there will be voltage drop, and the voltage at this point will be lesser compared to the other point. And in practical case, since these are connected by wires or windings, there will be definitely a voltage drop between these 2 points. That means whenever there is a voltage difference, whenever there is a potential difference, there will be a current flow. Clear? So since there is a potential difference between these 2 parallel paths, in practical case, there will be a current flow through this circuit. That current is circulating current, which is not useful for our machine. Clear? Actually, theoretically, these 2 points should have same voltage, but unfortunately, due to some voltage drop, there is a slight variation in the voltage. That is, there is a slight voltage difference. So there will be a current flowing through within the circuit. That is called a circulating current, which is not useful for the machine, and it will create more heat loss. Clear? And such circulating current or chance of circulating current will be lesser for wave wound machine, since there is only 2 parallel paths. Here it depends upon number of poles. If it is 8-pole machines, there will be 8 parallel paths for lap wound machines. So to control the potential difference between these 2 points will be difficult, but in this case only 2 parallel paths are there, the effective circulating current will be lesser in this case. That is the last point. And the third point we have to look is that Lap is called a complete winding. That means all the slots in the armature will be filled with the conductors or winding in case of lap winding. Clear? But in case of wave winding, all the slots are not filled and some slots are kept vacant, and that vacancy made wave winding called as incomplete winding. That means we have slots in the armature. In case of wave winding, some slots are left vacant. So it is called incomplete winding. Wave winding is called incomplete winding. As you know, all other slots are filled with windings and some slots are kept vacant. Definitely that will make a mechanical unbalance to the system and it causes vibration and noise for the machine. Clear? To avoid this problem, we will keep some dummy coils in these vacant slots. What is dummy coil? These are coils of same shape and same weight as compared to other coils, and it is kept in vacant slots, but these are not electrically connected to other coils. So what is the use of these dummy coils? Dummy itself, it is clear. It do not have any use, but it is just kept for a mechanical balance. It do not have any role in electrical side, and it is not connected electrically, but it is just kept to get a mechanical balance. Vacant slots are filled with the dummy coils. So what is the use of dummy coils in DC machine? It is a 2-mark question. What is the use? In wave wound machine, it is incomplete winding. So some slots are vacant in case of wave winding, and that vacant slots will cause mechanical unbalance and which causes vibration and noise. In order to avoid that vibration and noise, we will keep some coils in those slots, those vacant slots, and these coils are not connected electrically to other coils. So these are called dummy coils. What is the use of this dummy coil? To get mechanical balance. Clear? It's a very important question. And this comparison between lap wound machine and wave wound machine is also an important topic. And I hope all these topics are clear for you.